don't have to have pictures.
I can hear you fine.
Okay,
Hello.
I
Hello.
can hear you. I hear you.
all right, let's start. Minutes from the meeting on
28.
28th.
Make a motion to approve the minutes from March 28th.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Discussion at all? I didn't think so, but
I abstain.
all in favor? Aye.
This new meeting thing that we have to put on the minutes is ridiculous. We can make it shorter and it still makes the 2 pages.
What's it for?
Because we have a new connection for the minutes, or for the.
Dialing.
Zoom?
Sally, that's the copy that you left in the mailbox for us to look at. What you have in your hand.
Yeah.
Informal. Danny, are you on your own here or do you have a following tonight?
Always have a problem.
Oh, a following.
Following.
Are there going to be other folks joining you?
My hearing's really bad tonight, so,
It's a room.
Are there going to be other folks joining you?
not that I know of.
Oh, okay, so
No,
you're on
no.
your own.
I mean, if anybody wants to come in, sure.
Okay.
All right. You're up first.
Wow. Well,
We've got a full agenda, so try to keep it get within 15 minutes or so if you could.
thank you. You must have heard me speaking previously. Well, I was interested, maybe some of you know that in 1991, I proposed the idea which would eventually become the Housatonic River Initiative to a group of people who had met in Benno Friedman's kitchen in Sheffield, and I had been asked to call together the people there. Benno and I were both very interested in the river, and Benno had made a wonderful trip by kayak up through Pittsfield and come across some of the barrel dumps and sites of which have since been proven through HRI's diligence to be toxic sites, and they've been remediated. Some of them have been remediated. So HRI has been really important in pushing the powers that be to try to come to a cleanup of the river. And there was a initial cleanup of the first half mile of the river from G Transformer, and then another cleanup coming to where the east branch and the west branch of the Housatonic come together at, I think it's called Fred Garner Park. And at that point, right above where Canoe Meadows is, the sort of narrow channelized characters of the river broaden out into a floodplain, which goes inside a valley. We all know what October Mountain looks like. It's a beautiful valley, all the way down to the Woods Pond Dam. It's about 9.5 miles from the end of the cleanup at Fred Garner. And that's what we're looking at now, is cleaning up that 9.5 miles. And it's going back and forth. And we've ended up with a situation where Lee is facing a landfill, a 20-acre landfill, rising to a height of about 165 feet, which will contain most of what is going to be in that landfill is what's going to be pumped out of the existing Woods Pond. There's going to be an excavation of 60, Woods Pond is going to be pushed back to a depth of 6 feet, 60 acres in size. So if you picture 60 acres, 6 feet deep,
It's a lot.
and then you put it in 20 acres, starting here and going up to whatever it's going to be. That's where most of it's going to come from. And what's the point of that 60-acre, 6-foot deep pond? It's a settling pond. And the reason we have to have a settling pond is because the 9 miles or 9.5 miles above Woods Pond isn't actually going to be remediated. There's going to be some work done on the river itself and the river banks, and certain hot spots, for example, where canoers are accessing the river and places like that will be cleaned. But the river itself will continue to contribute vast amounts of silt containing PCBs to Woods Pond. And the idea is if they can slow down the flow enough, some of that silt will settle out. And then if you read the design carefully, you'll see that is going to have to be redredged over time because it will recontaminate. This is putting our neighbors, the town of Lee, in a terrible place for a number of reasons. First of all, it's the fact that the cleanup isn't a cleanup, and probably 70% of the PCBs will remain in the river. So they are not getting a cleanup for the river, which comes right down through Lennoxdale and through their downtown, right behind their downtown and along there through some of the places where they live. So they're not getting much of an improvement there. They are getting some improvement up around the Columbia Mill, where some of those backwaters on the road to Lennoxdale are. But most of all, what they're getting is a landfill, and they're getting probably 10 or 15 years of exposure to the transport of trucks and, coming up from Rising Pond and coming from Glendale Dam, which we're going to be exposed to too, of course. And I guess the reason why I'm here tonight is to share with you my concern that Stockbridge isn't really joining in with Lee in trying to, maybe not have that landfill there. And it seems like Lee is carrying the ball. Lee is involved in lawsuits and, and by the way, Lee has stopped contributing to the municipal group of Rest of the River folks. And I'm wondering, John, help me. I mean, should we be trying to invite somebody from Lee over to talk to us, or what's, I think, Ron, that's pretty much it.
Well,
That's probably enough.
I think that what needs to be brought to the table here is that our concern primarily are critters. Animals,
Okay.
amphibians, animals that live along the river, et cetera. And when we were talking, you were talking about some map that Andy Breslin has about the cancer that is occurring in these feral cats and other critters that are along the river corridor.
Correct.
And I mean, I think that's where we really probably have to.
I would like to, I tried to contact them and was not able to get those reports. Get the reports from Andy, that would be great.
Are you able to speak to him?
No,
Is the rest of the board aware of roughly what?
yes,
we're referring to?
I think most people are. We talked about it in a meeting, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But I also want to say that my aunt and uncle and their 4 daughters lived on the corner of the Housatonic River and Holmes Road at Canoe Meadows, and all of them had cancer. Every single one, 6 people. Now that's not, and it was not genetic, just saying.
So, John, thank you for that correction.
Well, another thing
Would you
is,
like me to talk about animals a little bit?
Yeah,
well,
because I think they're the bellwether, Denny, of what's happening to the people who live along, because we obviously can't poll the people. Would be HIPAA problems of saying, well, did you have cancer? You lived along a river. But animals we can talk about. And if the dogs and cats living along the river are showing increased levels of cancer, then I think everybody else living along the river ought to be very concerned.
now,
I will comment then that Andy Breslin, Dr. Breslin, who was our family veterinarian, did approach me a few years ago and explain that over the years, he and other vets in Pittsfield and Lenox had sent their canine tumors to Tufts University for pathology. And he received a request from a Dr. Moore at Tufts asking for the addresses of the people, of the owners of the pets. And he and a few other vets had sent those addresses back to Tufts, and then they put a GIS program on it. And Dr. Moore came to the Berkshires and made a preliminary presentation on a map which showed that 70% of the canine tumors in that period of time had come from a corridor of addresses within 200 yards of the Housatonic River. And as Sally alludes to, dogs are an indicator species for humans on these kinds of cancers. The other creatures which particularly are of interest. I went to the Mass Fish and Wildlife presentation at Green Drinks in Dalton about a month ago. And the state Mass Wildlife biologist for the Western region, Mr. Buckout, gave a delightful presentation on mustelids. And he talked about mink and how there are studies showing that they are not able to make it in the study area. They can't reproduce there. And the other thing that's interesting that they mentioned about mink is that they are the only creature at the moment which in great numbers can get COVID from humans and then act as a reservoir and then pass it back to humans. So they may also be an indicator species for humans on some of this stuff. That's just about as good. I don't know about the cat study, but I understand other people do. Yeah.
Terrifying.
I think the bottom line here is, will we formally show support to the town of Lee? And I think we are the the pre-meeting before Thursday night's select board meeting. Right.
It's not on the agenda.
It's not on the agenda? Okay.
No,
I thought it was.
So which "we" are you referring to? The first?
Well, I mean, it's like, okay, let's put up the antenna and say, all right, how do we stand on this dump in Lee?
we cannot do, it's already a legally, all the decisions have been made legally.
Perhaps. I mean, we had a.
I'm not sure what question we're being asked now anyways. Is it just the cleanup portion of it?
No, it's the dump portion of it,
The dump portion of it?
and what its eventual effect will have upon us downstream. A lot of the PCBs, if I'm not mistaken, are built up behind the dams, correct?
Actually, that's not correct.
Okay, that's not.
The majority of the PCBs are sequestered in the 1,000 acres of silt above the Woods Pond Dam. What the dam does is the dam has raised the water level so that in a time of flooding, the dam slows, it actually impounds a sheet of water of 1,000 acres. If you can imagine, the Woods Pond Dam goes from storage of 460 acre feet. That's normal. That's what we see in the beautiful photographs with the winding meanders and the kayakers without their hazard suits on. But actually, when it rains in the headwaters, the constriction, the dam is narrow, the valley narrows there, and the dam slows down the water and it slowly backs up and spreads out so that it covers the entire floodplain to the 10-year flood line. And the 10-year flood line is something that you understand and I don't, but what it means is there's 1,000 acres of water with at an average depth of 5 feet. And now I've forgotten where I am, but if you can imagine, and this happens 2 or 3 times a year, this just goes under the topic of hydrodynamics, a word that I have trouble with. Although I suppose that's what I'm doing when I'm paddling, but it's opposing hydrodynamics. It rains in Lanesboro, Dalton, up there, South Slope of Greylock, whatever. And if it rains for 2.5 or 3 days on saturated ground, the golf course in Stockbridge floods, so it's completely covered. And that's how I know that if I go up to the Decker canoe launch on whatever it is, East New Lenox Road, it's underwater. And East New Lenox Road is just passable because the whole area is underwater. And then what happens when it stops raining is the level of the floodplain starts to go down. And when it goes down, the PCBs, which are in that floodplain, gets sucked out of the floodplain into the main stem of the river, and then they come down and, recontaminate our golf course and ball field and all that.
But what about rising dam, for instance, or the power plant dam, or the dam that's
South Lee.
in South Lee?
Yes, there are, in those cases, there are, certainly above the Onyx Dam, there's floodplain there. And that is backed up, and there are PCBs in that area, and that's why they're gonna do some work there. And it's why they'll do some work behind the Glendale Dam. But compared to what is upstream of us, it's almost immaterial. Jamie, you had, and I had a conversation about dams, and so I went to the site, the Office of Dam Safety site, just to see how much water a flood would back up, would increase behind these different dams above Stockbridge. And, some of them will double the amount of, when floodwaters rise, they'll double what's called normal storage will go to full capacity, and it'll double. But the Woods Pond Dam goes from 460 acre feet to 5,300 acre feet. That's a huge, huge amount. And it goes from being an insignificant 60 acre body of water to probably the biggest water body west of Quabbin. I mean, it's, and then think of all that coming down.
Well, another part of discussion that I had recently involved, the trucks. I mean, if they go and they start pulling PCBs out of the Glendale Power Station and the Risingdale thing to schlep them up to Lee, those trucks are going to be driving down Main Street in Stockbridge. And will they be dewatered, or will they just throw the PCBs and the muck and everything else in there and just drive off and head to Lee? I mean, I don't know the answer to that question.
Where do they dewater if they do?
Yeah. So, I mean, you watch these trucks come through town and you see behind them.
So what the question I have for Jamie is, the town has already taken a stand on this. Is that correct or not?
All of the towns are in an intermunicipal agreement and has for years.
Right.
And everyone has paid their share except
Right.
one town, but that is all an agreed upon, decided upon decision, and it was all made years ago. It was not in my term, not on my watch. It was years ago. Yeah.
No intent of.
Right, but we
Just where
also,
we're at is what I want to know.
no pun intended, to dredge this up at the 11th hour is without facts, without information, without experts, is not responsible. And we don't want to have an emotional conversation, but a factual one, because I think this could get, lots of people have strong feelings. I am not an expert, and I'm wildly uncomfortable because I feel like this is a legal decision that's been made between many towns, all of the towns, and the suffering towns of Lenox and Pittsfield, they suffer the most, more than we do. And even though we have the dams, so I don't know the purpose of this conversation. I came late, I apologize. So
I think we are all concerned that there are a lot of facts out there that have never really come to light.
Who is Stockbridge's representative?
Was Steve
So there's
Schatz, I
many-
think.
So there's a whole committee, and there's many people that are intelligent people, not just Steve Schatz. He is from our town.
But he's been our rep for a long time.
Right,
if
but
that's
each
correct.
town has
Yeah.
been given people. And the man from the Berkshire Regional Planning Commission is on it, Thomas Mazer, I'm gonna botch up his name. Yeah, and there's many, intelligent people that care about the Berkshires. So I feel like there's enough balance.
But if there are studies out there that we have not taken into effect, which would be that animals are disproportionately coming up with tumors that seem to be related to their proximity to the river, and if this has been going on for a long time, and this has not been something that, I mean, GE, God knows, is trying to wiggle out of this as best they can. And I don't really frankly think that they care one way or the other what happens to the people who live along the river. But if there is current evidence that there are disproportionate incidences of cancer along the river, and we're talking about dredging out all the stuff in Woods Pond, and it will roil up the waters and send silt here, there, and everywhere. I don't know that because they made a decision 20 years ago as to how we were going to approach the situation in Lee, I don't know that we need to not ever revisit that if we have some new thoughts and new ideas.
Well, I think a new brain and a new face might be a good idea when it comes to the rest of the river, which Lee is pretty much abandoned.
There is a thought that needs to be considered, that if this intermunicipal agreement gets broken,
I know, there's big fines,
no,
aren't there?
GE will pull out and nothing will happen. The whole thing will stop, or it will get stuck in litigation for many, many more years, and there will be no money, no recourse, there will be nothing left, and we will be left with this disgusting, terrible mess.
Which works well for GE.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
sounds like
we
blackmail.
can,
It does to me too.
okay, we know that it's a problem, but it's better to get it out, to do something than to do nothing. If we do nothing, we can't afford to take it out on our own.
But does
And
taking it out
there's
cure anything?
another part of this many people don't know. Millions of pounds of PCBs are going to Detroit, Michigan. They are not going to the Berkshires. The most volatile are being dumped in a state, which is like injustice, like it's environmental injustice. We're going to go bring it somewhere who's poorer and who has more problems than we do, which is devastating.
So all those pounds are coming from this project?
So the
Others
most
they've done it
volatile, there's different, I'm not a scientist, but the most volatile PCBs will be shipped to Detroit and put into dumps. That's where it's going, Detroit, Michigan. We get the less volatile is going to Lee. It's a tiny amount in comparison. And
And the concern is what's going to leak will leach out. Is that correct, the way I understand it?
For years, they kept telling us that the whole nuclear waste thing was great, but tell me that in 100 years, they're going to know where they put it. And the concerns are that the barriers that are supposed to contain these toxic chemicals corrode and disintegrate over time, and people forget where it was, and all of a sudden you've got another Love Canal. You're building houses on something that's a toxic dump. I mean, it's terrifying stuff. We've created these horrific situations that, sending it to Michigan is just criminal in my opinion.
Well, another thing, Charlie Kenny, I don't know where he was sitting, but he was talking one day quite casually about when he was active as an orthopedic guy and he was working a night shift at BMC. And this guy comes in at 3:00 in the morning and he's got this major injury because he was driving a dump truck, and I don't know what happened to him, but whatever happened to him, and he was required to go to the ER. But he had been out dumping barrels of PCB in the middle of the night in places unknown to anybody. I think some of them were over in Tom Farley's orbit over in West Stockbridge. He plans to pull them up and find out.
So it sounds like there's some new information or information that was never really brought out.
Right. Well,
I mean, I had no idea that they were going to continually dredge the Woods Pond.
As time goes on, we find out more and more about the toxicity of a lot of things that we didn't really, too soon old, too late smart, as the 100-year-old man would say.
And being new, I'm sorry.
How long did it take before we decided that we didn't want to have DDT around? And now years and years and years went by with the PCBs being
Still
dumped
make
in the
DDT.
river. Yeah.
So
Being dumped in the river and every time you turn around, one more level of concern comes up. And I don't know, I certainly don't want to risk some huge failure on the part of, but I don't think GE should be able to get out of this for any reason. I think that they really need to they've left toxic dumps every place they've been.
So this is a really important issue. But I feel like I need time to understand it. I'm wondering if we can put it as an agenda item on a future meeting and get more information and get clarity, because I'm not sure what you're asking of us. So get clarity on that too, but talk about it at a meeting when we're more prepared.
And to see the reports that have
Yeah.
been cited about
Get
animal
more
studies and
information.
things like that. I mean, just to say, oh, somebody's seen something, we know that somebody's seen, that, my concern about that is that the group of experts who've been working on this for years and came up with far than ideal final solution for the rest of the river project. They at least were working with experts. And, I think we need to be really cautious that we're not trying to relitigate the work that they've already done.
So Denny, we'd like to invite you back sometime
Thank you.
with any documentation that you've mentioned tonight. We'll have the discussion again, continued.
And maybe come back and tell us what you would like from us.
And
I'm not clear.
Could we invite Steve Schatz to that meeting as well?
Sure.
Ron, can I just ask one more quick
You got it.
question of Denny?
Here, the other
Yes.
side?
Is that just quick?
Yes.
Denny, do you know anything about, was Silver Lake dredged?
I
I
believe
think
that
it was.
Silver Lake was dredged to a certain level, and then
Covered.
they put down carbon, they kind of capped it.
Capped it, yeah.
And the thing about
Because that's the source.
yeah, the cleanup there is the river itself, because there was so much contamination in the groundwater in the vicinity of the source, which was transformer, not just of PCBs and trichloroethylene benzene, but also coal tar oil from the old coal gas plant, which was next door there.
About as bad as you can get.
Pardon?
It's about as bad as you can get.
Yeah, because actually what happened was the PCBs catalyzed the coal gas into, that's what killed the people in Lakewood on the other side of the river in the 60s and 70s. So what they did there was they cleaned out the river channel and then they lined it with a liner, kind of like a landfill liner. And then, so the river is not getting groundwater from Silver Lake or from the groundwater around Silver Lake. They put in interceptor wells to slowly capture the oil from that groundwater. And so the river actually flows through that area almost in an open top culvert, which has been landscaped on either side. And that's why that area was not, the land was not truly remediated, but the river is protected from the land.
Yeah, I was told that Silver Lake empties into the Housatonic.
I believe it does.
In a culvert, about a 16-inch culvert or something like that.
All right,
So it's all covered, it's underground, and it's behind where that bowling alley was.
okay, yeah.
And then it hits the river. So it seemed to me that the real source of, heavy source would be Silver Lake. It's just a,
I think that was dredged and capped and
really, I never saw any dredging.
I can remember.
Just driving through.
I can remember it catching fire or something.
Surprised that it was, that way.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Denny.
All right, I'll leave.
We'll move on.
Yep. Peace. Thank you.
All right,
Come again.
Thank you.
Bernard Hahn, have we ever sent,
We have this set to go review the site in June.
have we given her a warning that if it
Yes, she
isn't?
knows.
And the other thing is,
Notice of intent, Goodall.
he's in the groundwater.
We're still waiting for the copy of the select board deed restriction before we issue.
So to be continued.
All right, continue that. National Grid. Phone electric poles on Clark Road. Notice of intent. Anyone here from National Grid?
Yep, Anthony with GZA, presenting for National Grid.
Anthony. What have you got for us showing where these poles and whatever replacements you're doing?
Yes, so pole placement and installation project off Clark Road. That's
Hard copy.
Can we
I'll sit
see
there.
that? Can you put it up on the screen while you're talking?
We've got a hard copy, wait a minute.
Unfortunately, this site, I do not have it. Hard copies didn't make it out.
We've got one.
Okay. Yeah, sorry about that.
Got two.
Yeah, page 40 would be a good one to pull up. That's the large overview plan. Page 40 of that document. That is right after Appendix C permit plans, right after the notification to abutters.
Found it, yes.
Whatever the butters, there was another couple of butters, and then it began after.
All right, while we're looking, give us a quick overview. How many poles are you gonna put in?
So we've got 5 replacements of existing poles. And then we have five new poles going along Clark Road. That's more towards the end of the road, from 7 Clark Road back to 3 Clark Road parcels.
So this is extending the line?
We are extending a current line, and the real reason that we are extending that is because the poles within a cross-country right-of-way south of Clark Pond are in very poor shape. Some of the wires are hanging. They don't use this line anymore, but they would like to service the end of this road and be able to provide reliable service for the duration of Clark Road. And so some of those poles are, they're tilted, they're falling over, they're not useful at all to them anymore. So in order to relocate those poles, they are proposing to install five poles along Clark Road to extend that line to make up for that relocation.
Do these poles provide service to homes down at the end?
Yes, sir. So currently, that cross-country right-of-way would have, and I believe the last pole that is currently existing would be pole 6, which would be right at Madison's Way. Is a small cul-de-sac, couple houses there midway down Clark Road. And so there's one pole. That's the last pole in the line. We'd be extending there where Clark Road heads north-south and installing those 5 new poles. Those 5 new poles are all within uplands right along the edge of the road. You'll see quite a few more figures there in the document. We basically just zoomed in to indicate that those are outside wetlands. It's tough to show, tough to see on this overview, on that overview plan. But there are 4 replacements of existing poles that are currently within BVW. They'll be the same diameter pole. They just need to be a little bit taller to accommodate the new taller poles that they would be putting in on the rest of the road. So that would be poles 2, 3-5, 4, and 5 located on the northern half of Clark Road near Agawam Brook, where that flows underneath Clark Road into Clark Pond. And one more replacement actually accessed on Route 7 down south, right just immediately about 100 feet south of where Agawam Brook picks back up underneath Route 7 and continues on its way west.
Do you have to access the poles to be removed through the wetlands, or
No, we do not.
are they just the wires taken down and the poles left, or are the poles going to be cut off or removed, or?
They will be walking in to remove those poles in chunks with chainsaw. So they won't need any access, no tree removal there to access that area of those cross-country poles. So they'll pull out the wires from Route 7. They'll set up a truck there that just a giant spool, from what I'm told, that they can hook that up, pull the wires out, and then go in and on foot cut and remove those former poles. So no access there, and along the road, along Clark Road itself, for the replacements and installation poles, those will all be conducted from Clark Road itself. A auger mounted utility truck that you see driving around every day, I'm sure, will pull right up to those locations, be able to dig that hole, minimal ground disturbance. We're talking about 18 inches wide for that new pole, and throw that in the ground, backfill as necessary. We did include erosion control plans just to show that they it as needed, depending on how close or how the commission sees it. The National Grid, Mass Electric is prepared to install erosion controls around each pole location.
Does excuse me,
No, go ahead.
does National Grid own a right of way under all
Yes.
these poles?
Yes.
You're going to continue to own that through the wetlands?
Through the
Is that-
wetlands. I'm not sure what's to be made of that cross-country right-of-way they're removing their infrastructure from. I know there's other utilities in there as well that are relocating to Clark Road. That I'd have to check.
Utilities on the poles or in the ground?
They were on the poles if they're still there.
So if the
So they
poles-
were above ground.
Clark?
Yeah, I'd have to check on ownership there, down the road, but I believe they retain
Clark
that
Road
easement.
floods regularly.
Everything's wet there.
It is a wet area. Yeah. But the poles that are, that have been in place there are actually in good shape along Clark Road. I've been out there a couple times, including during wet times, rainstorms, etc. They feel that's all part of their review process, whether new poles would be feasible in these locations, and the ones that they have in place in Clark Road have been doing well. The real impetus to this project was these cross-country poles to the south that are in wetlands and uplands, also in wet areas that are doing far worse. And that's why they're like to relocate those locations to Clark Road, where it's actually more stable and easier access to get in and out for future maintenance.
Have you gotten a response from Heritage?
Yes, we did include a letter to the very last page of this document, where they indicated back in January that this project, though located within a priority habitat, that would result in no take of species. They don't tell us which species that is, so that you and I can't go out looking for that secret mushroom, but they did indicate, I believe it's associated with the river and the pond itself. Like I said, they didn't give us that information, but did indicate that there'd be no risk to that species, and that the project could continue. If you have trouble finding that, let me know.
Lisa?
So there were very extensive comments from DEP. Could you go through that list and respond?
Yeah, sure. I know Mark does weigh in on projects, and appreciated his feedback. I think a few of them he may have missed in our submittal. It's a long submittal, a lot of figures. So I know to start off, that was number one with the NHESP determination.
Yep.
So that would be found in the very last page of the document, where I included the letter. Number two, I believe, had to do with
Bordering land subject to flooding.
right. So yeah, we looked into that. It is this area is unmarked. There's no data for under the FEMA flood zone hazard layer. So there's no information on that, though we do recognize that some of the work is located within riverfront area, and as you mentioned, there is flooding that occurs there with that small outlet.
So did you
inlet route
do it?
for the stream.
So did you do a delineation? I mean, how do you know what's what?
Yes, we conducted a delineation up there, and indicated that wetlands extend from each side of that culvert, and on both sides of the culvert that traverses underneath Clark Road, and riverfront is associated with the bank of mean annual high water line of a perennial stream, but not the bank of ponds. So that may have been partially some confusion from Mark's end, but there is some, where that culvert traverses underneath Clark Road, those 2 points there and extending north would initiate that riverfront area. And that's what we have indicated on our plans in that dark blue color. Also down to the south, near Route 7, where it picks back up again as the annual high water line. So that we did take a look at. And as I mentioned, the poles that are there currently have been in good condition.
And I just hold up 1 second. One of his comments was you didn't indicate how the high water mark was determined. It's not in the NOI.
Yeah, we could update that document, but basically we delineated that area. We marked points with our GPS unit of where that bank occurs, and we indicated, or we took note of that where that bank occurs is also the mean high water line.
And is that in the NOI?
It is, as far as our figures, description, a discrete description. I'd have to go back and check. Certainly can update it if not, but that was our intent, to show that our riverfront area would be indicative of that blue line in the figures and delineated on site.
I think that, given his comment, I think that needs to be.
Indicated by that, those locations over.
Is there, did you,
Yeah,
is there a written response to his comments? Because, they're really extensive. I would like to either have you go through them meticulously or provide a written response. There's a lot there that he brought up.
Yeah, and he definitely, brings up a few things that are in there already, and also a few things that are his recommendations, and not necessarily showstoppers, I would say, all things considered, but some more context is certainly possible. We can include that. We don't always respond directly back unless we have some questions directly for Mark or whoever ends up reviewing.
Can we ask for a response? Yeah, I would like to see a response.
Okay.
Point by point.
Yeah.
I have another question. Have you been out there when it's in a serious flooding situation?
I haven't seen a major flood event. No, I've seen pooling
Because it
on the
floods
road.
it floods right across Route 7. It's very flat. There's not a lot of topological, is that a word? Change between one side of the road and the other. It's darn near impassable on Route 7 when we have a good flood. And it floods into Agawam, it floods over Clark Road. It's a really serious thing. We were told, I don't know how many years ago, that FEMA would never get out to the Berkshires and we would never have an updated map. So I don't know how that works out, but.
Yeah, that's not a quick process from what I'm told. Yeah, I'm not sure if what the state of both those culverts. It certainly wasn't part of our scope. Different infrastructure for a grid to look at. They're just looking to replace the poles that need it and install these new poles to maintain that electric service. And they take a look at the state of them and can reconsider as needed, the locations of poles. But to what they've seen with their operations team, their field team, their professionals, the locations as proposed are as the best that they can provide at the moment. Certainly another project to look at. GZA does that work too, but not our project today, unfortunately.
I'm gonna drive up.
One of Mark's comments was about improvements in the existing areas. Are there any improvements in the NOI? Uh-uh. And again, you can, if you can go through it and provide a written response, but that's one that definitely caught my eye that I'd like to see.
Are all the poles numbered? Excuse me, are all the poles numbered? So if we took a ride out there and found pole number 6 or 2, 3-5 or 4, we would see which ones are to be replaced and the ones that are
Yeah,
being.
from what I remember, most of them still had, I mean, they're fairly old. Some of them may have been missing, but I think especially if you took a printout of that page, that first overview page, you can find those, the ones in gray are to be replaced and would be, out there. The ones in yellow are not currently. They're staked out. Maybe those stakes are still there. They've been there some of them have been there a year. So those might not be there, but we can have those replaced. If I know, I understand you guys tend to go out, and I'm not sure if you'd like me at that meeting or not. Let me know, but we can have those, re-staked out, the new ones, and just to show that.
Is that doable that you could meet us there
Yeah. Oh yeah.
at some point?
Yeah. And the next week or so would be.
We're going to need to set a bunch of site visits. So.
These are existing ones.
All right, well, let's start with this one and we'll work around.
Yeah, existing ones, the 13.
The other questions, I know that David, you reviewed this. Did you have comments?
David?
Hi, actually, Sally, I did not review it. I wasn't clear that the commission wanted me to review this one. I'd be happy to do that, though, if the commission wants me to.
And we're gonna schedule a site visit. If you get back to us by next Monday,
Can we go Monday?
I'm okay with it.
Holiday.
Anybody else wanna drive out there and
Do you want to do Monday?
do Monday?
That is a holiday, I believe. Just as
It's a
note.
holiday.
It's Patriots Day.
All right, we'll cross Monday off then.
Oh, we can't do it.
I can do any day.
Is it a holiday that you couldn't go? Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
And-
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Pick a day.
Next week. Next Thursday?
Friday.
This coming
Thursday
Thursday?
afternoons, I have
20th.
class. So that's not good for me. I would
Next
like
week?
to be-
Friday, early Friday afternoon? Next
The
Friday?
21st.
I could do the
I can't,
morning
21st.
on Thursday.
Like, what time?
You can't. I can't do afternoons.
Okay, so how about early Friday afternoon? Not this Friday, next
The
Friday.
21st.
I could do anything on the 21st.
Can or can't?
I can.
Can.
Friday what? Friday
The 21st, like at 1 or 1:30?
Working on it. Hang on.
Yep.
Friday, the 21st.
Time?
I'm good all day.
1 o'clock? Okay,
1 o'clock?
Works for me. Appreciate it.
thank you.
Any other questions?
That'll do it for now.
That works for Dave?
No, that time doesn't work for me, but I think the commission should go when it works for them, and I can scoot out there some other time.
Okay.
I'd be happy to do that, and I can put some comments together prior to the next meeting.
And that'd be great. And if you could have a response to DEP for that, that'd be great too. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Moving on.
Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Continue this. RDA for TARDIS Limited, 45 Interlaken Road.
Street from us.
Tree planting, Whalen Nurseries. Seems to me I was there.
We have anybody from Whalen Industries to talk about this project? It's not.
Wayland Nursery.
What exactly are we looking for? Do we have paperwork?
Where's 45 Interlaking Road? I mean, I know where 50 is. So it would be just near, somewhere near the south entrance to Lake Drive. Right? Tom Walker's is at 50. It would be back towards, like across the street from
No,
the
50 would be the other way.
No, because
104.
Mackinac Loading Plug's 100.
It's down
Oh,
near
okay, you said he's
J.
50, so it's the other way.
Be down near J.
I don't know.
So we have,
It'd have to be
not a lot.
kind of across from Joe Tracy somewhere. Where are they planting trees?
There's not a lot in here about, it's an RDA. Side down, inside out.
45
Applicant is proposing to plant native evergreen shrubs and perennial plant material on the left and right side of the driveway adjacent to a resource area. Area on the right, the north side of the driveway has some invasive honeysuckle and a few mature lilacs that will be removed to prepare the area for plant installation. Removal of existing plant material will include the root system. All debris will be hauled off site and disposed of properly. Work will occur within the buffer zone of the resource area bank towards the driveway side. Straw wattles will be installed and staked in place at the edge of the resource area before excavation of the root systems occur. Pitch of the land is sloped away from the bank toward the driveway, so runoff to the resource area is highly unlikely. Upon completion of the removals and installation of plant material, the planting bed will be mulched with decomposed wood chips to stabilize the surface. The straw walls will remain in place to hold the mulch back entering the resource area.
So if there's work in the bank, why is it an RDA?
Because you can always file an RDA first, and then we can say, no, we want a notice of intent. So that's the deal.
Have you guys got it up on your screen?
Oops, that's the house.
But we need somebody to
That's the-
The
present.
house with
Yeah,
the
we need
cockeyed
someone
house.
to come.
Yeah, across the street.
And maybe put it
It's not helping me a lot. Who's got a pool there?
So if you're heading south, you pass the boat launch on your left, go a little bit further down, right past the little private school. It's on the right, the next one, kind of across from where we were looking a few weeks ago.
No, it's 104. The numbers don't make
You
sense.
said 45, right?
Yeah, that's 45 is what.
But do the numbers go?
They're screwed up on one
Yeah.
side of the road.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they.
I can't give a rhyme or reason of
I
it,
think
but
Is
BCD
that making sense?
55. I think BCD is 55.
So we're talking about Group House.
oh, you know who that is?
Big giant
Yes.
house, that green one.
They own property on both sides of the road. They
It's,
did.
the woman that had
Yes,
the
Mrs.
trees.
Abrams.
Almost
Yes, yes.
from Jay.
It's that
All right,
big
I know that.
giant greenhouse by
So
the,
it's the one right across from the boat club.
They got the pool in the
Yeah.
front yard.
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm with it. No, I know.
Where Maureen O'Flynn used to live, I believe.
No.
No,
No,
it's the big
No,
giant
I think it's the
greenhouse.
one right across from the boat club, Jay.
Yeah.
All
And
right,
they-
yeah, and that's where Maureen and Claude lived years ago.
Didn't look like that
But
then.
you're right, it's across from the boat club.
Yeah.
And she
Yeah, so right,
owns
there was
the
a little
house
house in
across
there.
the street, 104 or something,
Yeah.
that we went.
Yeah, that was the, what's his face?
Yeah.
RJ McDonald's place.
So they need to come here.
yeah, we've got
Yeah,
to
we
continue
need-
this.
We need them to come in.
Yep.
At least we know where to look now. Okay, notice of intent, 14 South Main Street.
There is a stream that goes on the north side.
Yes, and actually, that's the one we looked at.
Yeah.
where the little bridge is gonna go across. by
Right,
our
and
James
we've had concerns about that stream before.
Yeah. Sir, state your name, please.
Sure. Bob Fournier from SK Design Group. I'm here on behalf of the applicant. I meant to print all these in color. For some reason, only some of them did. But this is the plan that's in the back of the book. I thought maybe it'd be easier to follow along. The one I printed out here, the colors are kind of funky for some reason.
Thank you.
There's a couple.
Don't notice. Spring's coming, Ron.
So this is a notice of intent at a single-family property on Route 7. This is an enlarged plan of the property where there's an existing house and existing barn. Property itself is, the address is 14 South Street. 14 South Street. It also has frontage on Meadow Lane, which is a private way. It's a 31-acre lot. Majority of the lot is comprised of wetlands, which is formed by the Agawam Brook. I don't know if you're familiar with that. That is part of the wetland system. The land is bordered by other single-family homes to the north, and to the east, and to the west, and by the large wetland system to the south. The lot itself obviously has wetlands on it. There's also a floodplain associated with Agawam Brook, and there are estimated habitat of rare wetlands wildlife, which really is what brings us here tonight. That's the main resource area that envelops the proposed work. The proposed work consists of converting an existing barn that is located on the property. Built a number of years ago. And it's located just to the east of the existing house. So this is a barn, it's about 600 or 700 square foot. The applicant intends to convert this to a year-round structure. There will be no change to the footprint other than a deck. This has a walkout, the barn has a walkout in the back. They want to build a deck at the first floor level that'll cantilever out over the ground. So there will be some concrete piers in order to support the porch. Other than that, this is the existing driveway that comes in and services the house and the barn. No other work is proposed other than some normal utilities. There's no potable water yet to the barn, so we're going to have water from the house to the barn, 50 to 75 feet. And in order for this to be habitable, we're going to put a sewer pump in, and it'll tie into the same sewer that the house is tying into out on the street here.
Town sewer?
Town sewer, yep. So new water lines, new sewer lines. None of the work is actually in a resource area other than this pink line represents the natural heritage boundary, which envelops this whole Agawam Lake and greater Housatonic River area. So we sent these plans to the Natural Heritage Program. They reported back that this was an exempt activity because it's a single family house and that we're not changing the footprint of anything. And they were of the opinion that this did not have any impact on any endangered species.
We have that, so.
And then this purple line down here represents the 100-year flood. That's associated with Agawam Brook, which is down here to the south. There's a very detailed topography that we did out here to make sure that our work was not in any of these resource areas. So that was one of the ones that we established. We ran a USGS benchmark all the way from somewhere, I don't remember where, onto the property so that this was tied into the FEMA maps. so that we know for sure that the work activity is outside of the floodplain.
So is it outside BVW too, or can you show?
Yes, that's the next one I was gonna get to, sorry, that's probably the most important one. That line, the BBW, is just downstream of the floodplain line, if you would, some 30 or 40 feet, kind of to toe the slope. If you've had a chance to look at the site, you'll see it's pretty clear. There's standing water at the edge of this wetland. So this yellow line then represents the 100-foot setback from that wetland. So basically, this is becomes just a buffer zone project. We're not altering any banks, streams, wetlands, or any other resource areas. We do show erosion controls. There is a foundation drain that needs to be installed that's shown on the plan that'll run about 30 or 40 feet down gradient of the barn because it wasn't built to be inhabitable structure, so it wasn't built with foundation drain. Or maybe at the time.
What does it have for a foundation?
It does have a foundation. You'll see it on the outside. It's
stone or concrete?
No, it's concrete. They do have to put some new foundation on the inside of the house though. They're doing interior foundation work to support the upper floor of this.
How old do you think the barn is?
The best I could tell from assessor's records, which were a little sketchy, is probably like 69 or so.
1969?
Yeah, yep. So it's not that old. I think it's a little bit newer than the house. They were built probably in that same era.
Has it been before historic?
We went before the planning board last week because of the proposed use. You cannot have more than one. This was considered an accessory dwelling unit, therefore required a special permit from the planning board. They mentioned historic, I think because it wasn't old enough, it
It's
didn't.
more than 50 years old if it was built in 1969.
Yeah, that's close, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're not tearing it down. I didn't look into it myself. She gave me a level of comfort that we weren't required to go to.
I wouldn't ever bet on that.
Okay.
Things are a little tense in town after a couple of buildings have disappeared. I would do my due diligence if I were you.
Ask us for best.
Yeah.
I wasn't prepared to answer that.
You don't have to answer that to us.
Have to answer it to us.
Yeah,
You're gonna
no,
have to answer it to
but
us.
I would err on the side of caution.
Sure.
I had another question. Comment from Mark from DEP was that the aerial photography.
Yeah.
Can I just?
I'm sorry.
The aerial photography was showing forested areas cut.
Yeah.
So
I spent about 45 minutes looking into that. You go on Google Earth and you can toggle back and forth from various years. I have some notes. Hold on a second. What did I do? Thank you. So the best I could tell, I mean, Mark's doing this based on aerial
Right.
photographs,
Yeah.
remember? And there are no wetlands boundaries on aerial photographs, so
Well, he said it was possibly BVW and south and southwest of the house.
yeah, I mean, there's no question that there has been some clearing done over the years. And between 2005 and 2008, from what I saw, seems to be the most activity. But I don't even know that the aerials were taken at the same time of the year, so it's a little difficult to tell with shadows.
We can go take a look.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to go see it.
And then another period between 2011 and 2014, there was clearly some more clearing done, but that was well outside of any.
But was it in the buffer zone?
It looks like it's 500 feet from wetlands, but you know, the aerials don't show the
the exact extent of the wetland, so it's difficult to predict. So if you go out and look at it though today, you'll see that whatever clearing was done by the prior owner was at least 15 years ago. Maybe it looks like it's 20 years old. You know, anything that was cut there is all growing back, so to speak. Nothing fresh has been cut out there. And this applicant just bought the property, I think in 2022.
Well, we're gonna wanna take a site visit.
Of course.
And we're already going out Friday the 21st, but I don't know. Anyone else got any other dates that we can work on?
For Monday? That work for
Monday,
you,
I'm
Um,
Bob?
free all day Monday.
I don't know.
That Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I'm in Wisconsin and Minneapolis.
But you could do Friday.
Oh, yes, Friday.
I can
So why don't we just
Friday.
do it all Friday?
Friday the
Are you
21st.
free Friday the 21st?
I thought Friday was the 21st or something.
Yep.
It
It's
is.
the 21st.
We had a 1, so 1:45. If it works.
1:45, Friday the 21st, work for you?
That works, yeah.
Okay. Good for Tucker. Good. She'll be there.
Okay, good?
Yep.
Thank you.
You guys are?
We'll meet you there.
I've got one more to do.
Oh, what are you doing now? Arnoff, 19 Yale Hill?
Yep. Well, I don't have a mounted plan. I think this one's pretty straightforward. It's a proposal to upgrade a septic system. Property at 19 Yale Hill Road. So this involves, this is a 6-bedroom home. Perks were done last year, I believe. House isn't currently occupied. It's a 6 or 7 acre lot. I believe I give you my glasses. 7.7 acre property with an assumed failed septic system that needs to be upgraded. Perk tests were performed and were successful in the area that's shown on the plan, which happens to be within 100 feet of the wetland. That's where the soils are suitable to replace the system that's located approximately 50 or 100 feet uphill of it. So we are requesting an RDA that this can be, septic system can be performed. We have erosion controls noted on the plans. This is primarily brush that needs to be cleared. There's very few trees in there, but.
Primarily.
Yeah.
Is the house visible
There,
From where?
there's a lot of invasives in there, right?
from Yale Hill Road?
Yeah, it's a big house.
Fair enough.
I'm trying to-
And there's
Oh, it's
a big barn,
Ellie's house?
a couple of big barns.
Ellie's house?
Ellie's.
Oh, yeah, I know.
So you said within 100 feet, how close?
The closest point of the grading that's gonna be required for the field is 64 feet from the UW.
How big is the field? How many people?
It's not that big. It's a really good perk test, 1 inch in 4 minutes. I had a scale with me. Where'd it go? Oh, you know what? He usually puts dimensions on these. It is 18 feet wide and 38 foot long. It will be an elevated system because there was a fairly high groundwater table.
So are there any improvements proposed for that work in the buffer zone?
No, only related to septic. No, we're putting in a new septic tank as well, but that's well outside of the buffer zone.
We asked for some tree replacement.
I think we should do a site visit or test what could be done. If I'm thinking correctly, I haven't been there for a long time. But there are a lot of invasive underbrush and
Probably.
junk that could be taken out.
We don't want to plant anything back.
Well, you may not plant it right there, but if you're removing things in a buffer,
We've
usually we
got
like
7
to,
acres to.
would like to ask for something to be.
Okay.
So we're already booked for the 21st.
30.
Yeah,
Sorry, what time?
2:30.
Yeah, I'll do maybe.
Any more plants in that bag?
Address once again?
19 Yale.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hoping for dinner sometime today.
You haven't got it yet?
No, not yet. It's going.
You didn't have a candy bar?
What?
I don't have a candy, let me.
No.
I did have some, but.
Sounds like you have candy.
Did you get the significance of?
Okay, moving on again.
No, I get it.
Another RDA for,
I didn't see it.
pass it on for this one. TEC Associates, oh.
Tech
who's-
Associates, it's the right along the county.
So 100 Interlake and it's not.
Kind of thing.
Yeah,
wait a
that's
minute.
Jay, the boat club.
Do I have a different copy?
Right?
Jay,
You're right there.
wait,
Club,
you're up.
Site visit?
yeah.
Monday?
Is there snacks involved?
Does it work for Jay, Monday?
Monday, what holiday is Monday?
Patriots Day.
Day.
It's a
Oh,
massive
yeah.
holiday.
That's a big
Oh,
holiday.
God, you're gonna be
Big
running the
holiday for me.
marathon.
That's a big holiday for me, but I'll make it work.
You're gonna do the Boston Marathon?
I was going to, but I think I'll make this meeting instead.
I said, do you wanna do the site visit on Monday?
Whatever works for you will be
Well,
fine.
we got one afternoon pretty well plugged.
The
Yeah, but we could
21st.
do, if we're doing, what are we doing? South Street, Clark Road, so those are all South Stockbridge.
All right, so
I don't have,
I don't see the boat being a
I don't
problem.
have the 100.
It's there on the new one.
No, didn't get it.
3:30?
So they can- Do we wanna just go from Yale Hill to the boat club?
Yes,
Okay.
So
So
2:30?
2:30, 3:15?
all right.
3:15 on
3:15.
Friday, the 21st?
Are you sure we have enough time? And we get the other place at 2:30, right? We're gonna walk around for,
At least it's pretty simple.
all right,
I
sorry.
think,
Wait. Are we talking about Monday, the 17th?
no, we're talking about Friday,
Friday
the
the-
21st.
Oh, my gosh. Okay. I'll be there.
Hopefully us too.
I'll bring the puppies, Sally.
Good. I'm missing the puppy, you know, that's a great bribe, always.
Be a good place to learn how to swim.
You bring me a good puppy, I'll say yes to anything.
Hey,
Cookies.
Careful of being recorded here.
Okay, now we go to the railroad.
I'm sure they're not here.
They're not here. Anybody from the railroad here? Houstonic Railroad?
Yes, I'm here. This is Tom Lewis.
Oh,
good.
hello, Tom.
How are you?
What kind of maintenance are we doing, so I can guess?
So as you may recall, I initiated this a couple of years back, but with COVID, we weren't able to make a site visit. So the railroads asked me to revisit the vegetation management on the right of way. And so all the COVID restrictions have been lifted and we can now go out and make a site visit if we want to together in a truck.
Has anything changed in your no spray zones and spray zones and
I haven't changed anything, but I expect that usually when we make a site visit, there's usually some edits that we make. And so based on that site visit, we'll update the maps and update the markings and we'll revise it then.
Because your delineations now are quite a few years old, aren't they? Is that?
Yes, it was
Yeah.
from the last time that we did it with John.
Yeah.
So just because I don't remember where you were doing the spraying, but are you spraying close to the river anywhere?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, 10 feet they can.
10 feet.
So-
Have you talked about interactions between spraying and PCBs? Okay.
They have the by right to do it.
Yeah, it's like,
And all we can really do is complain.
Tom, this time, will the markers be newish? I mean, last time I remember we went down there and there were some that we had to go digging for.
Yeah, they actually have done a lot of track work. As you know, the state, as you may know, the state owns that line now. And they did a tremendous amount of rail and tie work. So I suspect that a good number of them are gone. And I have a whole new pile of them that we'll have to set back out there. So probably more than likely, I expect at least 3/4 of them have been removed.
So,
All the
So we'll
creosote.
update any that need to be replaced, we'll replace them, or if they're getting faded, we'll replace them.
before the site visit or?
I can do it in advance, but the only problem with that is if I just set them where they are and then you want me to change it, I'll wind up having to pull them up and move them. I'd prefer to do it with you there, just so we're all in agreement.
Have they moved any of the stockpiles of creosote laden poles and things yet? Or are they
That I
still-
couldn't tell you. I don't
They're
get
still-
involved with the.
Still
with the-
leaching into the river?
I just couldn't say because I don't get involved with any of their other maintenance activities. So I can't even tell you where they're stockpiling material.
Could you tell us who can tell us?
I can refer you to their track supervisor.
Okay.
The gentleman's name is Matt Boardman. I think you've met him before. He's been there for a couple of decades. He's not new in the area.
And do we have contact? Can we contact him?
I'm happy to pass that along to you.
Okay.
But I just have no information on any of their other tie or rail replacement work, so I just don't know.
If you can pass that on, that'd be good.
Okay.
Tom, when do you plan on doing the spraying?
Their yearly operational plans are going to be going in the mail probably in 2 weeks. Typically it's sometime in June. You know, it depends. This year it's a post-emergent application, so it'll be sometime probably mid to late June, I suspect.
You want to do, or you want to do the thing?
You know, I'd like to do it, but I'd like to take another commissioner with me. I mean, you know, Jay was willing to do it the last time. And then that got washed out because of COVID. But the only reason is that, you know, I've done it a number of different times. I don't object to doing it solo, but I think that somebody else ought to have eyes on it, other than just me. I mean, it's pretty.
So you new guys, you want to ride the rails?
Well, you know,
The reason we signed up for this.
one thing I need to bring to your attention, and that is, it's a pickup truck. Unless, Tom, it's a pickup truck with a back seat, I don't know. The last one I was in did not have a back seat.
The last one did not, and it was crowded, I know. They tell me that they have a quad cab that we can use. The only problem is it's only on Fridays that's available. If we were going to do it the other days, we'd have to do it on foot. So I'd prefer to do it when we have a quad cab on a Friday.
I would too.
Yeah.
I have no problems with Fridays. I don't know if any of my colleagues have.
Yeah, that works.
So we could comfortably fit, me and a pilot and 2 commission members, maybe a third member if it was a squeeze.
I will say to the commission, it's a good experience, and it also opens your eyes to quite a few other things that might be of interest to us.
I would actually like to do it this year.
Why don't you do it?
I would like to do it this year.
All right. I'll do it. You pick
your
the
camera or phone.
You pick the Friday. I'll see if I can find my video camera.
Do you want to do it?
I'll ride in the back of the pickup truck. You guys ride up front. I grew up in the back of a
They
pickup
won't-
truck.
I'm little, I can fit
Yeah,
in.
you can't ride in the bed. You have to be inside.
Yeah.
I can
Go ahead,
fit
then.
in small places.
Yeah.
Pick the date.
Pick a Friday. Now, Friday, well, the only one I know that is not good for me is the 26th. Sorry.
21st is kind of busy. So.
Yeah, I'm probably tied up at least for the next 2 to 3 Fridays anyway. So if you wanted to shoot for early May, I'd be fine with that.
The more vegetative, the better, right? More growth.
Okay, the 5th I cannot do
Well, then I could spray.
So that leaves the 12th.
because I'm going to Westminster.
Oh, God, good luck.
No, we're doing a demo for Sentinel, which is exciting. How about the 12th?
Okay, I can do that. Let me reach out to the railroad, just make sure it's okay on their end, and I'll send you an email. I think I still have all your contact info.
What time?
I can do it whenever you want to be there. What I'll likely wind up doing is I'll probably spend the day because I have to go through all the other towns from Sheffield up to Pittsfield. So I'll just plan on being out there for the day, and whenever it works for you, we'll come find you.
So midday?
Late morning, early afternoon is fine with me.
That works.
Tom, because of a screw up that occurred a number of years ago when I was out of town, there are people in this room that don't know where the crossing is in Housatonic where we sort of mount up and get going.
Okay.
So some sort of memo would be good because I remember I was there, but whoever else was supposed to be there wasn't there, or vice versa. I don't know, but
Gotcha.
that got screwed up.
Okay. I'm sure I can get you that information. It's right in the middle of Housatonic, but yep, I'll make sure you guys all have it, even if I have to drop a pin and text it to you or something.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Brickyard parking lot?
It's kind of weird. It's a crossing. It goes down into a tunnel underneath what used to be Housatonic Curtains, but it's like,
Got you.
Yeah, it's in an old mill complex.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
The tower there.
Is that the one across from the gas station? Is that across from the gas station?
I can't place where the gas, it's sort of it's in that corridor.
The faux painting on the wall? There's a faux painting on the wall.
It's right across from the post office and behind the fire department.
Right.
Fire department.
183.
It's not in Stockbridge. It's actually just down across the line.
Right, so this is kind
The
Yes,
far
it's
left as you're going south.
as you're going.
yes, that's right. It's on the left if you're going south across from the post office in Housatonic.
I'll have to look next
So
time I go to
you
Chaplain.
go underneath the railroad track and then take a hard left to get to this crossing spot?
You don't go
Before that.
underneath
You
the railroad
stay
track.
on the,
You go right down whatever, it's not Main Street because Main Street shoots off that way. Whatever 183 is, it's off 183. There's a sound
Yeah.
studio. The old train station is this side of it.
Yeah, I'll make sure we all have a good map or something to go by.
Well, why don't you pick me up, John?
I'll pick you up.
You could do that.
all right.
So
So
let me,
who's
I'll
gonna
reach
go?
out to the
You guys,
railroad.
do you guys
I'll
want to
propose-
go?
We'll see what he has for the unit.
Because it's
Okay, I'll
really,
propose the 12th
educational.
midday. I'll try and get a little more detail just to see how many people we can actually squeeze in there. And then I'll let you know.
But we're planning 12 noon, right?
I can be very small.
Okay. All right, I will shoot for 12 noon on the 12th, and I'll let you know what the railroad says.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We have
You too.
Mass DOT to sign, Stover to sign,
Yep.
104 Literally.
Silverman.
So this is all stuff that happened when I was not here. No, I'm not responsible.
Actually, they've already worked on Route 7.
Really?
They were out there earlier this week.
They're quick. Yeah. Of course, there's the bridge on Holmes Road, which
Pretty interesting accident on 7.
5 years.
Or yesterday. Came out of Old Stockbridge Road without stopping,
Motorcycle?
Up by Highland, right?
Great car. Yeah. Great car. Before you go over there, right at the end of Old Stockbridge Road. They're coming back from
Back in there.
PWC and I said,
Really
and we were in a hurry.
flexible neck. That's a really hard intersection to.
Eventually they'll do to that intersection what they want to do to Route 7 up here.
Yes.
Oh.
Performance.
Stone wall is the certificate of compliance.
Which,
Where's the Silverman here?
Silverman was the notice of intent. That was R.J. McDonald.
Oh, okay. I was tracking. Upcoming business, performance standards, haven't heard anything.
can I ask you a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes.
I asked this question a number of different times, but I would like to know, and we don't need to have town attorney costing money to the town on the screen. I would like to know why she shot down,
Says she
We
did.
asked her.
Question was
She
asked.
says she didn't.
She was gonna look back and see,
Where it disappeared.
where it just,
She's gonna check
what
into
form
it.
that it disappeared from.
I also have one thing that, have we done something to appease poor Mr. Eric Gray on his trees?
Wait, can we just stay with performance?
Yes, we
So,
can. I will not forget this.
okay, so I wasn't clear, David, if we met with the attorney and went through it, if you now have to go through it again, kind of lost in what the next steps are.
I have not had any involvement on this since I emailed the revised final draft version to the commission, which was several months ago. So I've not met with town council on this.
Well, she was here at our last meeting and we went through her comments. I mean, ideally, we wanted you both there so we could finalize it. But, so do we then have to go through David's comments or how do we keep it?
We haven't heard anything back from her yet either, so.
Well, I think the only thing she was going to follow up on was the sequence of
The loss
work.
of, yeah.
Everything else, I thought we addressed all her comments.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know where
the
it
work
stands.
the work that I did on it, those were just my suggestions. So it ultimately needs to be something that town council and the commission is satisfied with. So I don't know that it necessarily needs to go back through me again, if you all are happy with it.
Okay.
David, I have a question for you in my absence, and I apologize, I was gone for quite a while. I have this ongoing can that I bang on with regard to things that keep showing up on our agenda week after week, 6 months, a year, whatever.
There's just the one and that's been settled.
No, I know, but I mean, it's like, is there a possibility we could give them a time frame in which that they would have to have whatever it is resolved. And if they didn't have it resolved in that time frame, then they got fined.
We addressed that.
Okay, I wasn't here, that's all
I think what we ended up saying was, in those cases, we could send out a nice letter, send out another nice letter, and then if that's not
They would get
responded
to nasty
to,
letters.
then they get nasty letters in enforcement.
Can I write the nasty?
Yes,
You could write them, and with that, we can, by our bylaw, we can impose a fine. But to start nice,
yeah,
and she was in agreement with that.
all right,
Yeah.
great.
So, but if we can, I just want to know how it's going to be resolved. So we're waiting to hear back from her, and then that's the final copy?
Yeah,
Okay.
Anybody got a local weed?
Eric Gray
okay.
is going to kill us if we don't get this together.
Where is Eric Gray?
Tree plantings or tree takedowns,
Tree takedowns.
and his
Where is-
address was 45?
Where is Eric Gray?
All right, David, the handout, little brochure that we had, that you put
Yeah.
together.
So,
All in agreement, that works,
great.
except there was
My email address, which was incorrect.
Right. But I sent out to Sally today a corrected version. And what I did is I actually reformatted the sequence of those panels so that, and I did kind of a mock-up on my own with a trifold. So I sent the revised version to Sally. I can forward that to everybody else. They will look out of sequence, but when it's folded when it's printed both sides and folded as a trifold, the way I did it, the sequence will make sense.
all right, because the town has got a brand new copier that'll do heavier paper than normal.
Oh, great.
So we'll do a quick run to see what they look like, and then we can print out 50 at a time, or 24 at a time, or 100 at a time, whatever we need. And that'll be the end of our expense. The town still picks up the paperwork, but then we hand them out, put them out. Ned's office gets them.
And we could put them out for town meeting on a
Yeah, we
rack.
could do that.
Okay, great.
I can, what I can do is I can print out one of my own and I can fold it the way that I figured out how to fold it before you guys print out a bunch. We just want to make sure it's going to work.
All right.
Yeah, please.
I can't reach
We
out.
don't-
It was kind of like a Rubik's Cube figuring.
Oh, good. That doesn't fly when you give it a shot or anything. Okay.
There was another item that the commission asked me to look into, and Sally reminded me of that. We don't have to talk about it now, but just before I forget, it is related to extension orders of conditions. That was, I think, the question Jess Toro posed to you, Sally.
Right, yes,
So do you want the answer to that question?
yes.
Okay, so I think what she was seeking was an extended order of conditions for 5 years, correct?
The question was, did she have it for 5 years? In other words, do they need to refile, or was it 5 years? I don't ever remember doing and there was nothing in the file that I could find. I don't ever remember issuing an order of conditions that was good for 5 years. She seemed to think that for this particular project that was germane, but I couldn't see where it was unless this was something out of the ordinary.
Yeah, so as I think you know, the commission at its discretion can issue an order that's valid for 5 years instead of 3 if an applicant makes a compelling case for that and if it makes sense. So that would have been something, if Jess can't find the order of conditions and you guys can't find it, sounds like there is none. So there's no permit to extend. That's probably the easy answer.
I think I found the order of conditions, but I didn't find it's been a while now, but I don't think I found where it said 5 years.
Okay, yes, that would have needed to have been explicitly written into the order if they wanted it for 5 years. And if you didn't write for 5 years and they didn't catch it and ask for it to be corrected, I
don't
think that
think,
ship has sailed.
I don't think so, but I will look into it again. She seemed to think that it was something that could be done. And I did not ever remember us doing anything for 5 years. So that was the question of whether they need to reapply at this point or whether we could extend it. So that's the thing. And the other thing.
Don't orders and conditions, isn't there a space on there that indicates precisely when it's going to expire?
Well, it usually says 3 years.
Right. So what does this one say?
I don't know. I have to go look. Again.
So unless it says 5 years, it was 3.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah.
So the other thing we talked about briefly was redoing the scenic mountains paperwork.
Yeah,
And-
I don't have that in my notes, so let me
Okay,
know.
we'll talk about that some other time.
Okay.
The other thing was I would really, in view of this business with Mr. Gray and Mr. Eisenstein or Stein, like to have a form that's similar to our jurisdictional form, which I can get a copy from Ned, that simply says name, address, phone number, person doing the application. We want to cut down 4 trees by the lake. They're all dead. Come look at them.
Picture included.
Yeah,
Is included.
basically. But just really a nice form that these people can come and get, our applicants can come and get, so that we have a piece of paper which compels us to do a site visit and look at their project, so that they're not sitting there going, did you go look at it? Did you put stuff on it? Did you go look at it? And
So, okay, I just want to understand, I want to understand this a little bit more. Are people just, do they routinely come to the commission or call the commission and say, hey, can we cut this tree down? And they don't want to go through the trouble of submitting an RDA probably, right? Is that it?
right, pretty much.
Okay. So,
And they don't necessarily have to. There's some instances where we might want to say you have to submit something.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, in some cases it
There
warrants an
might be a
emergency
check
certification.
thing. Yeah, there might be a check thing where you can say, no, you can't just go ahead and do it. We want you to file an RDA, or we want you to replant where you're taking these trees down because we think that that's going to be necessary.
Okay, so you want
Maybe
kind of
the name of the contractor too,
Right.
like who's going to do the
Who's
tree.
doing the
'cause it's all
work.
tree work.
Just a simple formal form that they can get and file and,
okay, that has all the requisite information that you guys would need to make an informed decision.
right,
So it
exactly.
might even be something that they could attach to an RDA form in the event that you decide they need an RDA and it's got all the information right there.
That'd work. That would work.
Yeah.
Okay, let me,
And a
me-
picture, a picture.
More photos.
Yeah, want a photo.
okay. Yeah, I will take a shot at putting something together. So it will be like a tree removal description / request form, something like that. I'll think about it.
Exactly, yeah, where obviously where it's one that's going to be, in a sensitive area.
So I think it should have a number of boxes to check off, such as like, what's the purpose for removing it? I mean, because the commission any individual member of the commission theoretically can give an emergency certification if you've got a dead tree that's, precariously perched over a house or a garage or something like that. A lot of commissions have to contend with the fact that some people just want to cut down dead trees because they don't like the way they look and they're nowhere near anything and they're not presenting a hazard. So that's, you'd want to tease that kind of thing out in this form too, I think, right?
Yes, yep.
We had one call was the tree's going to fall in the lake.
great. That's good habitat.
Well, yeah, I know, but.
Turtles
you
would
tell-
love that.
You tell them that.
Yeah.
It's about the only way they fall around.
Yeah, I know, they all lean towards the
And
lake.
we've got now a thing for trees falling in the river too, now.
You have to deal with that?
No, we don't.
No, I had to go look for one almost in the Houstonic.
Yeah, this was
Huge oak
our
tree.
friend James Lawson.
Huge oak tree in the river.
Yeah.
It fell in.
Yeah. It's almost a Houstonic.
She's ready.
Down, what's those little side roads down there?
Furnace.
Furnace District, yeah, all the way down to the right.
And they want the town to pay for it.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
Didn't happen. Might still be
Okay,
there.
I'll put that on my list.
Thanks, David.
You bet.
So what number is grades again?
I'll let you know. I've got it downstairs.
All right, I'll get it. Any other business?
Did we ever ask Eisenstein to come talk to us about replanting?
We've got to do that.
Okay.
That's why I want this form.
Yeah.
Because I want a form that we can say, you know, if it's going to be in a sensitive area, you're likely to have to replant. Or we might ask you to replant, just so they're not surprised, you know?
Where is Eisenstein?
I don't know. John went. The Eisenstein trees, I don't know where that was.
I've had like
Is that down in Beechwood?
rain for a while.
You looked it up
Is
quite a
that
while ago.
Beechwood?
It's been so long, John.
I mean,
I know you said you want to look at it.
Told him he could do it, but we have not yet done anything but replanting because I didn't go and see it, so I have no idea. This is why this form would be great, because whoever takes the form or whoever goes to do the site visit can make notes saying, okay, it's right on the bank. We really feel like you need to replant there if you're going to take it down. So that we have a paper with the address that I don't have to remember, and the person who's applying to remove the trees also has information.
Bless you.
They're not going, yeah, what?
The site that I went to, now whether it's Graham's.
I think you went to Eisenstein.
You went to Eisenstein.
I don't know, but I mean, there was a dead tree overhanging the water, and there was some buckthorn bush stuff that was there that was marked, and there was a couple of things that were like this big around that I thought were, I mean, I don't know why they want to take them down. It's not ugly.
Because they're going to grow up and ruin his view.
No, because the house is here, and what he wants to do is.
Okay, see, there's the thing, I don't know, because I didn't see it. I didn't go to it.
Yeah, if we'd had something to sign off on, you could have signed off on it right then and there,
Yeah,
and we'd been done with it.
I just went and looked.
Yeah, so I just feel like we need some sort of formal paperwork that we can give to the applicant and we can keep in our records, just because it'll make our lives a whole lot easier, I think. And more efficient, much more efficient, because right now I'm sending out things saying, did anybody go look at this? Did anybody go look at this? Did they go look at this? And it's been like months.
Right, well, I wasn't here.
Poor guy.
I have one little comment about the brochure.
Yep.
And that is there anywhere a list of realtors in the Berkshires that we could send this brochure to so that when they are required to divulge to a home buyer anything that might be haywire with a piece of property. I have a feeling that a number of different times that we've seen over the last 20 years, I mean, the realtor doesn't know, so he has no knowledge to tell the buyer, and then the buyer comes and says, what the hell is this all about? You know, how are we going to make any money on the top of a rattlesnake, et cetera? You know,
I'm sure there must be, even if there's on some of the Saturday's papers, there's a whole separate section on real estate that's all, you know, that's advertisement, but they've got all the names of the realtors in there trying to, you know, they got a picture of a house in this location.
well, I just think it would be a really good idea.
There's got to be a realtors association.
There is.
Oh, there is somewhere.
MLS, the multiple listing service.
Got them
Well,
coming up.
Once we get them then we figure out what to do with them. Can we make a motion here?
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Third, fourth, fifth.
All in favor?
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you Monday.
I'll be there.
And Friday,
And Friday.
all day Friday.
I'll come to both.
Good night.
Good
Good night, thank you.
Good night.
You bet. Talk to you next time.
Be here.